And this week, we're going to look at some mobility and core exercises you can do at home without any equipment. I'm back here in Canada at my brother's place out on his deck. I have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks. So gonna go through some good exercises if you've been sitting and lying around too much. Maybe your back's getting a bit stiff, your hips, or maybe just you are doing a few workouts, but a lot of us don't take the time to do some kind of longer stretches to really. A lot of these are going to be about opening up my hips or trying to really stretch out my hamstrings. So this is the only one I actually use a prop for. I'm using a kettlebell, but you could use anything or no weight at all. And it's just a long, kind of deeper kind of sumo squat, trying to keep my back very flat. Even a lot of times in the gym before I want to do squats, I would do this. And I really find it helps me do a smoother squat. There's a little squirrel saying hello. So nice to have a little nature while you're doing your workout. And here in my next exercise, just down on all fours and lifting up a leg or an arm one at a time, and then doing some bird dogs where the opposite arm and leg lift up. So these are good kind of warm up exercises. Not moving too quickly, not really going to drain you if you are going to something more explosive or with some heavier weight. But I find again just kind of engaging the core with this. And now we're going to get into the third exercise where it's a little bit more dynamic. And again, you can do this a little bit quicker. You can take your time with it. I'm going through each stage. So I'm putting my right foot up by my hands, lifting up my back leg into a lunge, and then going into a twist here, holding it for a few breaths. And then I'll take my time slowly and go back down, putting my hand down first, and then staying in this position for a few breaths. So I like doing these stretches a little bit longer because I find that's really going to allow my muscles and joints to really relax more, especially here as I'm warming up as I'm doing these exercises, so they do take a while. And then I go back to sitting back on my left foot, and I'm stretching out right now my right hamstring and the calf a little bit as well here. So some of these are kind of, you would say, more like a yoga flow. I'm not really going too quickly because I do want to again get that deeper stretch, and really it's more about feeling good after my 15 minutes of stretching than it is going for a max effort kind of workout, or a max necessarily use of amount of weights or reps. So definitely have to use some variety, and these are the kind of exercises where you can really improve your mobility, or at the very least maintain your mobility while you're away from the squash courts. And a lot of us, if we are sitting at an office and we have that desk job, these are exercises that you probably are going to need to be doing multiple times a week, maybe daily, to get really the best you can out of your body. So squash, when I've worked with a lot of kids and some adults as well, a lot of it has to do with posture and your mobility. And I'm 38, so I can kind of feel the difference if I'm not doing these stretches on a regular basis. Just things that used to be easy, like touching your toes, get a little bit more difficult. Obviously a lot of people, their hamstrings get tight, and I think most adults, when you see them at the club, don't really do any kind of stretching. But now we have all kinds of time. You can do these exercises with very little space. You could do it while you're watching TV. It's really, I think, about getting into a habit of doing, it doesn't have to be these specific exercises. These are just the ones that I personally like the most, and I find help me with the areas in my body that are really tight, that need some extra time to loosen up. And if I wasn't recording this for an episode, some of these I might actually hold for up to 2 minutes or more, depending on how tight that area was, and if I feel like it's really loosening up or not. So for me, I've always found like hamstrings are always a tight one, so I do a few different long kind of hamstring stretches in this routine as well. So yeah, again, just now I'm on the other side, that left hamstring, left calf, trying to actually really keep that leg straight. And now going into the second part of this exercise. So the left leg is up by my hands again. So just getting comfortable. That's for a lot of people a stretch in itself. Then I'm lifting up my back knee, and then I'll eventually here go into the twist. So twisting towards the right side. So this is a little bit more of a yoga routine, this particular pose. Going with the hand down this time, so trying to keep my hand pretty straight in a straight line. It's close, but that's why sometimes good to have that awareness of your body and being able to really go into these different types of positions. So going slow again on the way back down, not in a rush, just like going through a nice slow kind of flow in your yoga, but again making it more specific for you. So I'm going to get into a couple more stretches, and then I'm going to go into I'm going to finish with a 5-minute core exercise routine, just because again I feel like if we're doing too much sitting and maybe slouching, getting a sore back, like part of that is going to be because we're not really on our feet enough, we're not engaging our core enough. So definitely spending the time to do some of these longer, I like to call mobility stretches, and some core exercises. You'll feel a lot better. So just finishing up the last stretch here again on that hamstring. So here I'm into some side lunges. So I'm holding these for a little bit. I always find these quite difficult. I would do this in the gym sometimes with a kettlebell, and not the most comfortable way to do really a lunge. So I'm down a little bit deeper here, and now opening up that left leg. Really, again, when you change the angle of your foot and your leg, that changes kind of the stretch into your hip and also adds in the hamstring again. So now I'm going to that other side, and again just trying to go nice and slow. I have nothing to rush for today. Don't have to go into the club, don't have to go do lessons or lesson planning. So really trying to take at least 30 minutes to an hour every day to do some kind of workout or stretching, and if I do a workout, at least doing some of these exercises before or sometimes after as well. So again, just I'm down, I opened up my foot and my hip here, so adding in that hamstring and changing where my hips engaged here. And now gonna go just a little bit kind of side to side, nice and slow again, just really again more about making sure I can do this movement. And a lot of people probably my age or older are gonna have troubles doing that kind of getting their body into that that posture. So, and if you have trouble getting into these postures, then obviously you're going to be very limited when you get onto the squash court. So here I am, just left foot down in front of me, right foot back, and reaching up, so getting a stretch through the right side and also into the hip flexor here. So this is one that I find my hip flexors get pretty tight again, just probably too much sitting and too much on court stuff and not stretching enough. And unless you're doing these stretches every day, then different areas are going to be tighter. So I think it's important for me, this stretch. And again, I think most adults, a lot of kids, when I've tried to do this stretch with them, a lot of times they can't feel anything. So I think this is a good one for the adults to make sure they incorporate. And again, not too difficult physically, more about just again getting that routine, having that patience. And if I was doing this on my own, I might have a timer down and just do it for 2 minutes, just so I know I'm not trying to go too quickly through the exercises, and I'm really trying to breathe deeper and really let the stretch get as deep and relaxing the muscle as much as possible. So again, here's another hamstring one. Hamstrings generally are getting a little bit tighter as I get older. So I fold over, and then I kind of went up and had a flatter back, which I think I'll do again here in a second. So again, a little bit of a yoga pose, but something that you can just let gravity relax and stretch your hamstrings out. And I think, again, just something that you can add in, very simply into, whether it's a yoga or mobility stretching. So I think that's my third or fourth hamstring stretch already. And here down in pigeon pose, so you can adapt this however you like it. So I started, upright a little bit more, and then slowly getting a little bit lower, trying to keep my back foot pretty straight and trying to keep my hips square right over top, parallel to the floor, basically. So that's where you can, again, the more you do these stretches, the more you can tell, exactly what position is best for you. And, they shouldn't be painful. So if you're going too far that they're painful and you're like, you can't wait to get out of the stretch, then you're probably, going a bit too far, doing a bit too much. So you want to find that balance between feeling a stretch and, not overdoing it or not doing, enough where you're not actually going to get some benefit. So again, just switching sides. So right now, just my right foot's in front of me and I'm a little bit upright, and then I slowly will slide down onto my forearms. This is a stretch that I'll do multiple times a week, and again, keeping that back leg straight, and I'll feel a good stretch right now in my my right hip mostly. So again, a lot of hip stretches and hip mobility work being done in these exercises. So you're welcome to follow along with this kind of routine and go at my pace, or you're welcome just to pick some of these and try them out and kind of make your own little mobility stretching flow routine. And here's another one stolen from yoga, but downward dog, and just really trying to stretch out my calves. So I'm trying to push up with my hands, really be long, and then I'm just alternating, lifting my heels up. So trying to get that stretch into my calves and my Achilles, and then go down again, adapt it how you want, but I just went down into a push-up, then I'm back right up and into downward dog, and again just trying to really be patient with it, let the stretch really sink in and get the most benefit out of the stretch. So this is a great exercise to add in a lot of different ways, and something that just feels good for my body. So I like adding this in when I'm doing some mobility work. So I think might be one more before we get to our core exercises, but let's actually, I'm not sure. We'll take, one more. Okay, so here starting in a plank with my knees slightly bent, and I'm spinning around and balancing. So it's right now my right arm and left foot are down. So this is one that I used to do a lot with my trainers. Again, part of a warm-up, just really improving my body coordination in my legs and my arms. Something that if you haven't tried, it's going to feel a little awkward at the beginning. Maybe one side more than the other. But again, a good kind of more basic, I would say, movement exercise that most people can do with very little space, and you don't need any equipment. So here I'm going into my final kind of 5-minute core exercise. So going through quite a few different variations. I'm basically just taking 10 seconds or 10 breaths between each exercise. So I don't actually have a watch to time this one, but you could also do it with a timer as well. So I'm here into a side plank, back down to a normal plank, and then I'm holding this for 10 seconds. So I obviously, again, just trying to, adapt, add in some variations to the core, to the planks, just, keeping it a little fresh, and also, trying to, target different kind of abdominal muscles as well. So down to my forearms, up to my arms, counting to 10, making sure I'm taking, nice deep breaths, and now down to the other side plank. And lots of different ways you can do your side plank. You can have your top foot in front of your bottom foot. I could have my arm down on my side. You could even have your knees down. So there's lots of variations you can do if you're struggling with your side plank. So now I'm back down. So kind of going through a flow of some different poses in my plank. So back down to my forearms, and really just focusing on keeping my core engaged, up into that push-up position, and trying to keep my back flat, my core really engaged, thinking about if I was balancing something on my back, that it would stay there. And now just going through nice and controlled, touching my elbow with my knee on the same side. So I believe I go through 10 touches, and again, just trying to maintain good posture when you're doing this. And obviously this is also showing good mobility and coordination in the hip joint as well. Okay, and now just touching my opposite shoulder with my hand, trying to go nice and slow again, trying not to rotate my shoulders and hips too much, which is difficult to do when you're picking up one hand and being on a one-armed plank. Again, just trying to challenge a little bit. So here I'm just picking up my foot, tapping the opposite back heel of my shoe. I believe I went through for 10 touches. So trying to go through, kind of a fun little mixture of some simple plank adaptations you can do. And here we go, arms out, straight forwards, 10 seconds, trying to hold it. So by this point, core starting to fatigue a little bit. Left leg's up, so trying to hold that 10 seconds. Left arm's up. Felt like it was a little straighter than that in line with my back, but I can tell here, just have to practice a little bit. So right leg's up. That's a pretty good position. 10 seconds. Getting close to the end here. Okay, side plank again. So side plank, I like thinking about pushing my hips up. If I do have my arms up here, again, trying to draw a straight line. So that's, what I see most common in people who do side planks is their hips are too low and they're not really pushing up and engaging the side of their abdominals. So back to a normal plank I like to do between transitioning from one side plank to the other. Again, trying to push those hips up, so making a pretty straight line with my leg to hips to my back or side over there. So really trying to draw a straight line there and a straight line through from one arm to the other. So 10 seconds, and now I believe I just finished with 10 push-ups. So I hope you enjoyed some of these mobility routines and my little 5-minute core exercise. And you can try some of these out while you're in self-isolation or in quarantine. And hopefully we'll be back into the squash club soon. And if you do some of these exercises, I guarantee that your body is going to thank you and your squash game will too.